This video is sponsored by LEN'S Island. More about that later. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to City Skylines and welcome back to the city of Nerdholm. In the last episode, we took a look at, we played around with, and we explored the new financial district's mini expansion that recently came out for Cities Skylines, and all of that centered around the stock exchange, which I'm happy to say has now been fully upgraded. It is now level 5, it gives us a plus 6% tax bonus, and that means that I have gained over $1.5 million from investments. And of course, around the stock exchange, we placed a bunch of buildings that came out recently with the Skyscrapers Content Creator Pack. I say recently, I don't actually remember when it came out. I feel like it was relatively recently. The game's almost 8 years old, so we'll say recently. I love these towers. I think they look amazing. I love the details on them. I love the variety of shapes and sizes, and just the general level of detail on the models I feel is really, really good. But there's a problem, and we need to talk about that problem. There's a little bit of an elephant in the room, and some of you actually mentioned it in the comments on that last episode. So obviously, I made a point of having this entire space be pedestrianized. All of these skyscrapers are placed on either this main avenue or on some pedestrian streets in and around what's currently known as Chestnut Mall. Now, we are going to rename this in just a little bit. I've seen all of your comments with some amazing name suggestions. I've gone through and I've picked my favorite or favorites. No spoilers, we'll tell you in just a little bit. But there's a problem. This, whilst in terms of Nerdholm lore is a financial district, it's not mechanically a financial district, because in all of my excitement to deal with the stocks at the stock exchange, I kind of forgot to make this an actual district, and I forgot to apply the actual financial office buildings specialization. Now this will give us a higher tax income, which is further increased by proximity to the stock exchange and international trade building. The international trade building, by the way, is something I unlocked for getting the stock exchange to level 5. The problem is that office building happiness goes down. So what I decided to do was rename Florence Heights, which was this little district space here, that was the original district that we had, to Financial Heights. And I've gone in there and zoned it with a bunch of office zoning. But there's a problem. None of this is ever going to build. And that's because Willow Hills over here is having a bit of a crisis. Half of the buildings in here have been abandoned, and the other half are going to be abandoned because there's not enough workers. We have about 50% demand for residential zoning. We have near enough the same for commercial. Basically, all of our industry is suffering because we don't have enough people. The population has actually gone down in recent episodes because of construction projects like Chestnut Mall and the various changes that we're making to a lot of these spaces. And it's great that we've built somewhere like Lakeside South and also Lakeside North, but we have to keep in mind these are, while the buildings are densely packed together, they're still low density districts. Lakeside South has 1,000 people living there, and Lakeside North has 1,600 people living there. So really, between the two of these, there's just about 2,600 people. That's a huge amount of space. Lakeside North and South with 2,600 people takes up more space than Dale Hills, which has 12,500 people. So we need to focus a little bit on density rather than detailing, and so today's episode is going to be a little bit more straightforward city skylines. Now, that's not to say that we're not going to be doing some detailing, because we do have to look at the stadium. I promised we'd do it today, and we're absolutely going to, but not before we have a look at the Narrows and at Bedford, and maybe Castleview. Probably just the Narrows and Bedford, and then into the stadium, so that the episode's not a million years long, but I kind of want to fill out these spaces, because if you look at our balance, we are losing $20,000 every week. And that might be some of the worst budgeting that I have ever had in any of my City Skylines series. So I need to fix that. Now, I could go through and I could actually change the budget a little bit, and I'm thinking I'm going to bring the education budget down to 100% rather than 150%. And I'm going to do the same. I might do the same with power, water, and garbage as well, but we should probably check those. So power is, we're currently producing 650 megawatts. We need 426. So let's bring the power budget down to 100%. And see what we're generating with that kind of budget. Hopefully it's going to be enough. 530. Okay, I'm quite comfortable with that. It's, 100 megawatts excess is just fine. Water at the moment is here. So I reckon if we bring that budget down to 100%, we should be just fine. Let's take a little bit of a look. Sewage is getting a bit close, but we're doing okay. And then if we go and look at garbage, it's at 150%. If we look at the statistics for it, I get the feeling we could probably bring that down as well. So let's bring garbage down to 100%. We're going to go from $10,365 on the budget there down to $10,142. I'm hoping it goes lower, but I've got the feeling it's not. Oh no, there we go. It is coming down, which is great. It's also worth pointing out that my public transport, my bus and intercity bus budget is 75%. I'm actually going to bring that down to 50% because honestly, there's too many buses on a lot of my lines already. So bringing those numbers down further, sort of across the board, I think is going to be just fine, because then what I can do is I can go into my transport menu and I can sort by passengers and I can see, okay, bus line 8, it has double deckers, it has 8 buses, 414 passengers. How's it looking right now? It has 100% budget, 8 out of 8. Do we have a ridiculous number of people waiting at stops? We've got 0 at the start. We've got 95 right here. We're going to zoom out and look at this properly. We've got 197, 103, 104. We do have a couple of stops with a lot of people, and we have a full bus showing up to this stop. So what I'm thinking we could do is potentially just bring the budget of this line up to, 128%, give it 2 more buses, and hopefully that's going to help out these stops a little bit. There's 185 people right here, for example. So hopefully that helps us out. Not that we urgently need it, but that's how I'm going to deal with the buses. Overall, a lower budget, and then the lines that need the budget can get the budget. And so if we look at the budget and look at the economy overall, we're starting to save things just a little bit. Our current income is $169,460. The total expenses, $173,746. So we are still spending more than we are earning, but we're only losing $4,500 per week rather than $20,000. So we have just immediately managed to save a whole bunch of money, which is fantastic. So let's go ahead and talk about the Narrows, and let's talk about Bedford, and let's see what we're going to do in these spaces. Now, the Narrows has been named the Narrows. I think I've already told you sort of why it got that name. I was watching Batman Begins and then sat down to lay out some districts and thought the Narrows was a really cool name. But it's also because this is kind of a narrow space to build in, so that's kind of what we're going for there. And I'm kind of torn on what I want to do with this, because on one hand, I could do something like this, and we can have a road that just goes along the highway, and then with buildings sort of facing out, it could be kind of cool like that. But what we could also maybe do is a road right here. And so we could then go and say no zoning on this road, and we'll just have buildings sort of facing this one central road with their backs facing the highway. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that vibe. I think that could be kind of interesting. And I might go so far as to elevate some sections of highway as well. So then we can run some paths under here and sort of turn this. I don't want it to be grimy. I don't want it to be like the Narrows from Batman. I don't want it to be a haven for crime, obviously, but I think having this like a bunch of pedestrian underpasses underneath the highway, there's something about that. There's something really cool about that. So I'd like to explore it. So I think that is what we're going to do. And I think what we can do then is just disable zoning on this road. And now all my buildings are going to face this one little road, which is obviously not going to be made of dirt when we upgrade it, but for now, while we're planning, we'll use the dirt. When it comes to Bedford, I kind of like the idea of separating the styles quite drastically. We're going to lean into that C word that I know and love, and we're going to have some contrast here. The Narrows is going to be a bunch of European-style buildings because they are, you know, obviously dense, but they're sort of mid-rise, kind of low-rise buildings. You know, there's a bunch of households in something that's maybe 5 stories rather than a bunch of households in towers. And that's what I think we should have down here. You also have to keep in mind that, you know, Campus Park has 5,000 people and a relatively small footprint. It's actually about the size of Lakeside North. So we're going to use those style of buildings. When it comes to Bedford, though, I'm thinking that we might actually go ahead and use something like the wall-to-wall buildings. And then we could maybe consider Bedford sort of a new, very modern development that was built specifically for the stadium. So it can have some commercial in there. We do have commercial demand. And I think that'll be kind of interesting. We'll have like a little town square, have some kind of plaza in there, some shops around it, and then obviously some houses as well. So this is going to be a bit of a grid. So let's just go ahead and very, very quickly lay this out. And so I think this is going to be our rough layout. I'm probably going to add another connection or two from Bedford down towards the stadium, and I'm probably going to swap out some of these roads. In fact, a lot of Bedford might turn into a pedestrianized space, but we're not going to be going there just yet because I kind of want to focus on the Narrows, because the Narrows, like I said, it's going to be a bunch of European style buildings, so we need to swap out this style for European. But what I also want to do is I want to go in here, I want to search for ploppable buildings, I want to search for high density residential, and I specifically want to search for a district style, that being European, which is thankfully the first one that comes up. And the way I want to do this is I kind of want to go for some 3x3 buildings, maybe some 4x3 buildings if they exist, which they absolutely do. I want buildings that are going to sort of stick together though. So something like this, where if I put them next to each other, it's almost kind of seamless. We do have some beautiful corner pieces in here as well. I'd love to play with these, but I kind of want there to be, in a way, I want there to be pretty much the same building the entire way across here. Now, there are some great 2x3 buildings as well. I might go for these because I think if I place a bunch of them, they might have different colors. There's some 4x buildings. You know, there's these guys, which are much, a good bit more depth on them. They're pretty cool. I think these guys stacked next to each other would look interesting, especially with the archways there, that I think will create sort of, I guess, yards between the buildings. That might look kind of interesting. These guys are sort of going to be a no-no because they aren't going to look good stuck together. So I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll just zone a bunch of space, right? We'll zone all of this. Now, I do need to go in here. I did change out the mod for forcing historical, so all new buildings are historical. And what we'll do is we'll just go in here and place a few buildings, just to sort of get a feel for things. So we'll place a few of these guys. We'll do 4 of them right there. We'll do a few 3x2 buildings, I guess. We'll leave a gap of 4, so 1, 2, and 3 and 4 of those. We've got these 3x2 block houses right here, which are a bit taller than the ones that we just placed. We'll do 4 of those as well. And we have these 3x3 block houses. We'll go for 1, 2, 3, and 4 of those. And I'm pretty sure we have some other options. These guys are 3x4. These actually look kind of interesting. I do kind of like those. And apparently they only come in level 2. There's no level 1 version of those, which is probably fine. Although looking at it, I think they're both, this might be a level 1 version. Because they're both labeled as level 2. But, oh no, yeah, the name on this one is H1. So this is the level 1 version. That's fine. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we'll do that. We'll zone you. And we can just de-zone everything that we're not using so that nothing else builds. And this will give us a bit of a look at what these buildings might look like stacked next to each other in this space. You know, is there going to be some color variety? Is there going to be anything interesting that just makes it look a little bit less like I've placed the exact same building over and over again? And immediately we're not going to be doing these ones because they all have the same signs. So you guys are immediately out of here. We're going to dezone this, bulldoze you. You guys look pretty good, but they do look a little bit wealthy, almost. They almost look, I mean, they're going to be expensive, I think, but they definitely look kind of wealthy. These guys are a little too, they're a bit too purple, to be honest. That rooftop, I think, is a bit too purple. These guys kind of have the right feel. They definitely have the right feel, but I do want a little bit more depth. And these guys, a little bit too flat, I think. I think they look great, but they're a little bit too flat. Obviously, we could play with a mix of them, but I'm really liking these guys. Very kind of wealthy looking, and I'm really liking these guys. So I think that's going to narrow it down to those buildings for our selection. And I've got to be honest, I think the one that's sort of pulling ahead in this little competition is maybe gonna be both of them. I think we're gonna do both of them. That's what we're gonna do. So what I'll do, I know that's cheating, right? I've just, that's, you know what? The winner is both of you. Yeah, we're gonna do that. So what I'm gonna do is put a couple of corner pieces there and there as well. And then between this, I'm gonna do these slightly more shallow buildings. Annoyingly, they don't fit together though, so I'm gonna have to play around with some spacing here, but that's 1, 2, and 3. So we'll go and do 1, that's 2 and 3. Now we need something to go in the middle. That's great. That's just perfect. I don't know. I guess this guy, I don't know how good that's gonna look though, but we'll give it a shot and see what happens. I do need to zone all of that to make sure they don't disappear, and I need to de-zone you to make sure you don't get built. So there we go. Let's take a look at what this looks like. Hopefully that building in the middle is not too much. It extending right back to the road might be a problem, but let's see. It looks okay. It does look, it looks a little out of place. Hold on. Maybe we can get some little 2x buildings. Yeah, these guys, for example, might be pretty good. These guys are honestly not too bad either. I'm kind of thinking these ones though. So bulldoze whatever was coming up there, put those in the middle, and we'll get rid of this bit of zoning at the back. What does that look like? You know, with a little bit of a swap in the placement, I think that looks pretty good, actually. I like that a lot. So that's kind of what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and get a bunch of buildings here. We'll do some kind of fence or something at the backs of them just to sort of separate it, kind of similar to what we did in Lakeside. And then I think along the highway, we are probably going to go for these guys. And I think this big boring flat wall is going to be okay if we raise the highway. So let's get rid of these guys because we don't want them. Let's get rid of you guys because we don't want you either. D-zone all of this, D-zone all of you, bulldoze the buildings, and then rezone all of it and place the buildings by hand because that's just so exciting. Now I've got to be honest. I do think in its current state, the Narrows looks a little bit goofy, but I think that's okay, and I'm pretty sure we can probably make it work. Although, looking at this, I kind of need to expand the district just a little bit, right down to about there, just to make sure that everything stays exactly how it should, so that all of these European buildings don't start disappearing. That would definitely be a bit of a problem, and we want to make sure it doesn't happen, because we are using these guys, of course, to bring the population up. It's 298 right now, but that's hopefully going to grow as people move into the Narrows. And of course, what we can also do is go in here and actually add some tram stops just outside of this place as well, so people can go, you know, to and from the they can go to the stadium, they can come from the stadium to the town. They've got a pretty good connection right there. What is that a bus line? I think that's a bus line going around there, isn't it? Okay, I was curious about what the other pink line was, but I'm pretty sure it's buses. So that's, I think it's that bus line actually. It's a really weird bus line, but whatever. This will be good. This will give people in this neighborhood access to, you know, get to wherever they want to go without having to use cars, which is sort of the goal. Although I guess now we have to figure out how exactly we're going to make this place look a little bit less goofy, because it really does look a little bit goofy right now. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I want to select some road segments, and I want to see if I can elevate this highway without it looking really, really silly. Because there's a really, really good chance it's gonna look really, really silly if I do this. So let's... Oh man, I really don't know if I want to do this. This is gonna be terrible if I do it wrong. Let's put a cut in the highway right about there, just to give myself a couple of nodes. That has just forced zoning onto the highway. I forgot that was a thing that I could do. Okay. I don't love that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a big fan of zoning on my highways. So let's just remove that zoning real quick, because it's ever so slightly messing with my, well, my everything, to be quite honest. Let's just fix it there, and let's just fix it back here as well, because we really don't want it anywhere. So now we're good. So now we have that cut in the same place. That's good. We can go the entire way around here. And really, we could have this elevated all the way up to, like, here, if we wanted to. So if I was to go and grab these two highway nodes, and I was to grab, say, I don't know if I want to grab these two specifically, but I'm going to grab those two specifically, and we just, I don't know, elevate, I guess. I don't know how high I want this to go. I guess maybe to, let's say about there. I don't know about that. I really don't know about that. But then we can go along and essentially just grab every node in between. And if I slope this, I just kind of want to see what it does. I kind of want to see what the game thinks of me sloping everything in between those. We'll see if it actually generates any kind of interesting looking elevated highway. And I mean, it does. Obviously, it needs to be changed into an actual elevated road, but that's seconds of work, really. So let's do the same thing on the other side and then turn this entire thing into an actual elevated highway. And we're going to have some space underneath here to run a bunch of pedestrian, like, paths, not streets this time. And again, hopefully that's going to help with traffic, because traffic's been getting to be a bit of a problem as well in Nerdholm. We've been seeing a lot of it coming and going and a lot of it backing up onto the highways. So we'll see if this helps out, and I suppose now is the time that we go in, we change this to elevated, and we, oh man, I'm a little nervous about this, I'm not gonna lie. Alright, yeah, let's swap all of this out. And you know, actually, I really like that. I think that's really, really cool. I'm excited to get some paths under there. I also want to talk about, I say from time to time I'm really nervous about doing something, and I realize it sounds really silly, it's just a video game, right? But the reason I say I'm nervous about doing something is because if it goes horribly wrong, it's a lot of, it's not a lot of time. I don't want to sit and be like, man, I spent so much time playing City Skylines and it all went wrong. It's not that. I want these things to work out, you know? I want my stupid build idea to actually sort of work. It's that's what gets me kind of nervous when I do this kind of thing, because if this doesn't work, you know, if the entire idea of this video doesn't work, then yeah, I probably will delete it, to be quite honest with you. I've done it a few times in both this series and others where I'll spend like an hour building something and I'm totally, well, not even an hour, like 3 hours at times. I'll be totally convinced that what I'm doing is an amazing idea. And then you have that moment where you zoom out and look at it and you're like, oh, that looks terrible. Delete, delete, delete. So that's just 4 hours. But then you can use that to, you know, sort of come up with a better idea. So that's kind of what I try to do anyway, is if something doesn't work out, it's like, okay, how can I learn from this? And how can I, you know, apply that to a future episode of City Skylines or SimCity or whatever it might be. It's usually one of those. And of course, it wouldn't be me playing City Skylines and changing roads if we didn't then end up with a massive tailback. This isn't good. This is kind of a problem. But I'm going to hope that this is just a bunch of people moving into the Narrows. We've got a bunch of people that are excited about their new home. They're excited to explore a new life in Nerdholm. And they're just excited to be here. Speaking of exploring, let's talk about how you can explore LEN'S Island. Whether you farm the days away, build yourself a boat and hit the seas, or help the villagers in Bridgewater rebuild their town, there's been no better time to check out LEN'S Island than right now, as the Uncharted Waters update releases December 16th, allowing you to explore over 30 new handcrafted islands. Check out the Uncharted Waters update now and get LEN'S Island for 40% off through December 23rd. Link in the video description. Alright, so before we go crazy detailing the Narrows, I actually want to start building some things in Bedford because our focus still has to be on growing the population. We are up to 40,600 people, which is fantastic. The Narrows has 1,700 people living here, which is fantastic. The traffic is starting to dissipate, which is also fantastic. So let's keep moving and let's see what we can do here with Bedford. So the first thing I want to do is actually find some kind of plaza that we can put right in the middle here, because I think this is a really good spot to just do something that looks kind of cool. And we have options. We have a decent number of options. We could maybe use something from the city park type thing. What is this called? The city park. Yeah, we could we could use something like a city park if we really wanted to. I don't know that that's necessarily what I want to use. We could use something like, I guess, the large fountain plaza, which might actually look really good. If I place it there and then I use move it to select the building and hold left alt, I can just sort of shift it back. And honestly, I'm kind of here for that. So that's what I'm thinking. But I did say that I wanted some of Bedford to be pedestrian roads. So that's going to be a little bit of something to figure out. I suppose what we could do is we could have some regular roads that sort of come down here. Now, what I'm going to do is make sure that zoning is forced, but I'm going to use these 2-lane roads with sidewalks. I don't necessarily want people parking on these specific roads. I also don't really want them parking here either on the entryways. In fact, I might go so far as saying that the entry and exit of this space should have 4 lanes, so that we kind of have dedicated turning lanes for everything. And that maybe this should also have 4 lanes. I don't really know if we need that, though. That might be a little bit too much. But my thinking would be that maybe we just have some kind of road that goes a bit like this. And that's it. That's about as far as you can drive in here. The rest of it would be pedestrianized. So, for example, I kind of just want to use cobblestone, although it is a new development, so bluestone I feel would make more sense. So we'll use the bluestone and we'll see what happens. We did use cobblestone over here, but we can totally swap that out if we want to. But I think bluestone around here, I think it looks interesting, although this maybe should also be a regular road. So you can sort of drive in there, drive in here. I'm not going to let them drive in here, because I guess this is going to be sort of like a lot of shops and it's going to be very pedestrianized. So that'll be fine. And then this road back here, I don't know what to do with it. I've also just realized that I did use bluestone for pretty much this entire thing. Interesting. I don't know why I used cobblestone for this a little bit, but yeah, apparently I used bluestone for all of it. I guess this should also be bluestone. I guess we just sort of carry it through like that. I really don't like this little turn. I'm going to be honest, I really, really don't like that, but I don't know what else I could do with it. And then this bit here, I suppose, can also just be bluestone, although it needs to not have zoning because we're not going to be building on it. And honestly, we're probably not building on these bits either, so that's totally fine. And I think that's good. I think that'll be a good layout. People can drive around, they can walk around, it's nice. So when it comes to zoning Bedford, I think we're going to go relatively simple. We're going to do a nice strip of commercial down here. I think we're going to do commercial sort of around this little square as well. And I think we can do it in pretty much all of those spaces. I'm also kind of thinking that commercial could maybe go along this particular little section. We can maybe do some commercial down here as well. Although these guys are going to be sort of back to back, which is going to be a bit weird, but that's probably fine. In fact, maybe on all of the roads you can drive in on, we have commercial. And then, well, then that would mean commercial here. I don't know if we want to necessarily do that. This is looking like way too much commercial zoning already. So you know what? We're going to scrap that idea. and we're just going to do commercial by the by this bit right here. I do want to have commercial around the square still, so we're still sort of going to do this, but I think other than maybe some commercial here as well, because I feel like that makes sense, that's about as much as we're going to go for in terms of commercial zoning. Obviously, this is sort of a relatively modern development, probably for the stadium, so it's maybe a bit weird that there's, you know, residential here and so much of it, but maybe we can consider it like mixed use zoning. I know it doesn't exist, but we can pretend that it's, you know, a bunch of ground floor shops with people living in apartments up above or something like that. Just go with it. Just go with it, because we really need this residential density here. So that's what it is. Just go with it. Just give me this one. Let's clear out this bit, and you know what? Let's do residential, and that'll be fine. So in terms of buildings for this space, what I'm thinking I want to do is specify that this is going to have wall-to-wall zoning. So Bedford is going to be wall-to-wall zoning across the board. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to manually place all of the buildings, as I tend to do, because we have some pretty good choices in here. I also kind of want to flatten this entire space. I'm not going to lie. I really, really want to flatten a lot of this, but we'll see how that goes. I do want to see what kind of, you know, 4x4 sections we have. We have some really interesting buildings, to be fair. There are some really, really curious looking buildings in here for sure. I don't know if I love this one. This one's interesting. This is a level 3 apparently. This is a level 2. What is this? That's a commercial high corner. Is that a corner as well? No, it isn't. Oh boy. Oh, these are sort of designed to be... Oh man, I might be screwing this up, but we're going to give this a shot, and we're going to get an idea of what this might look like. This might be... this might be terrible. There's a really, really good chance this is going to look awful, but we're going to give it a shot, is what we're going to do. So we'll do that. We can do this as well. I am not looking forward to this building, but let's take a look. Oh, I also totally forgot that these guys would build back here. I can't... Oh no. I can't see what this is going to look like until it's actually built. Oh, this is going to be risky. All right. Let's have some fun with this then. What level are you? Level 3? Are you level 3 as well? Yeah, they're both level 3. Okay. Oh, I don't like this. I feel like I'm playing a really dangerous game now. Okay. I also, because I can't zone on this road or build on that road, I can't get these to face each other properly. So I'm gonna have to go in and put zoning back on this avenue. I really don't like that oh man. This, this actually, you know when I said I'm getting nervous about things? I'm actually nervous about things now. And so now with this space built, I have to be honest, it looks a bit weird. I don't know that I love it. I also don't know why it's necessarily, oh wait, why is it rebuilding? Are these guys, they are just changing out the styles of the buildings, I guess. Okay, well, maybe I should, wait, were they not historical? Apparently not. That's kind of weird. Some of these guys are apparently getting rebuilt despite they should be historical, but I guess that doesn't matter. Some of them do look really weird, don't they? You know, oh, we got some zoning going on there. Okay, you know what? I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna have to get rid of the zoning on this road again. We're going back and forth on this a lot, but we'll clear this out. We'll get rid of you. And I'm just gonna bulldoze these buildings and see what appears. In fact, maybe that's what I should just do with this entire space, is just select all the buildings, you know, turn off, you know, clear historical on all of this, get rid of all the buildings, just let it build itself. It would probably look a bit less weird than what I've got here, and it would actually grow naturally. So I think honestly, that's kind of what I'm going to do. So I'm going to just select all these buildings. That was a total waste of time, but this is that learning process. Remember I was talking about making mistakes and learning from them? This is one where I guess we're learning from it. So delete all of the buildings. We can let that grow again naturally. It does look like we're having sewage problems. Interesting. We're going to need to deal with that. We'll deal with it shortly. I am going to let this whole space just go and sort of do its thing. And apparently this is a... Oh, Evergreen Street is the name of the pedestrian space for the stadium as well. Okay, that's fine. We'll let this build. We'll let this do its thing. I'm honestly not super worried about it. It'll look good eventually. But what I would like to do is clear this square because I kind of want to see if we can get something in here that's kind of a feature of the space. Now, we do have the International Trade Building, which admittedly... Now, hold on a second. Would it be ridiculous of me to put... Hold on. Doesn't this give benefits to the... Yeah, financial district office buildings pay higher taxes when built close to an international trade building. I think I can only have one, but even so, that's kind of interesting. Are we having power problems? We are going to have power problems soon. Interesting. Lowering that budget has done a number on Nerdholm is what it's done. But yeah, this kind of... Would it be silly of me to... Would it be silly of me to say that Bedford becomes a financial district? Yeah, it would. It's supposed to be low-rise. It's not supposed to be high-rise. Let's not get carried away here. We do have some landmarks, though. So these guys are technically landmarks. This modern landmark building stands out in any commercial zone. This modern landmark building stands out in any residential zone. So we have some interesting choices for different buildings we could use for this space. We've got this office landmark. What does this actually look like? That's apparently a landmark. I don't know about that. It doesn't really stand out. Hold on. What else have we got that we can put in here as kind of a feature? You know, the Museum of Modern Art isn't something I place very often in City Skylines because it in itself is kind of very modern art. It's all over the place. It's angular. It's weird, but it kind of works for this space. At least I think it does. All the buildings around here are super colorful. They're different shapes and sizes. They have different overhangs and pillars and just all sorts going on. The entire district is kind of a weird collage of everything, just anything. You get what I mean. So it kind of works. The building represents the district. It's also the kind of thing that I feel could potentially be relatively close to a stadium. This is going to attract a lot of people, so everyone that comes to town for a football game might go to the Museum of Modern Art nearby. I don't know. They might not. It also probably would have made a lot of sense to turn this into a hotels-focused district, but I really don't want high-rises, so we're going to stick with the low-rise thing we have going on. What are you doing? Are you a wall-to-wall building? I don't know that you are. I actually have no idea if that's actually... It is in the district, right? Sort of. I'm just gonna extend this district right up to the road there to make sure that is in fact a wall-to-wall building. I'm pretty it just disappeared. I'm pretty sure it wasn't. So that answers that question. I'll also just tidy that up a little bit to make sure everything's good. But I like how this has turned out. I think it's okay. It's nothing too crazy. The population's almost 42,000 people, which is great. The budget's not falling as quickly as it was. There's obviously still a lot of detailing to do in here, but I do want to take a look over at my financial space. We have a building! Nice! We have one financial building. Amazing. Okay. Can I put this guy in here? Is there room for it? Oh my god, there is. I could put this here. We could get another skyscraper, which honestly, I'm gonna do. It looks, it does look really terrible. It looks awful having it on a hill like that, but I think that's kind of cool. I'm tempted to put it elsewhere, but it is gonna boost. What does it do? Income bonus to nearby financial district office buildings. I feel like I should actually get rid of this. I do feel like I should get rid of this and expand a financial district into this space so that we get more bonuses. I don't know. I'm gonna get rid of it. I'm going to get rid of it because my challenge for today is to get this space to actually build with financial buildings. All right, so let's come back to Bedford real quick because I do want to start detailing this space. I don't want to go super, super crazy, but something I do want to do is actually come in here and get rid of one of these buildings because I feel like we should have some parking lots. I feel like that would be kind of important for a space like this, that we do have some parking lots, maybe behind the buildings, for people to, you know, park their cars. So let's just go in here and very, very quickly put together a bit of a parking lot. So it doesn't need to be huge is the thing. It can come back to here, I guess. Oh, that messes with zoning in those roads. That's fine. That's probably fine. It's not fine, but it's going to have to be. And I'm just going to do this. Really nothing crazy, really nothing super fancy, just a really, really simple little bit of parking behind the buildings, and it'll do, right? It'll do the job. I could probably change this up a little bit more if I wanted to, you know, a tiny, tiny little, oh, not that. Let's get rid of you because that's sort of screwed us up a little bit. A teeny, tiny little road there, and then just extend this guy back. But does that mess with my zoning? It does. Ah, okay. So we can't do that. All right. Let's put this all back together so that we get my zoning back, because I keep getting rid of it accidentally. And then what we'll do is we'll get those parking lot roads wherever they are, right here, I think. And I suppose what we need to do here is this. So we go to about there and then we do the parking lot. Do I want to do that? I feel like just a simple little parking lot, you know, just really nothing crazy. Even that I'm kind of okay with. I could go bigger. It would definitely be an option to go a bit bigger, but again, that feels excessive to me. So I think this is pretty good. I think that's pretty good. We could maybe do another section, but I'm sort of okay with this. I think this is fine. So let's just do some zoning. We'll go for another bit of residential, as we tend to do. We'll do a little bit of residential there. And we can, I suppose, just put some parking lots on here. And so, with a bunch of trees and bushes and fences, we've managed to, I think, nicely detail the Narrows. Although, we still haven't pushed any paths from the Narrows over to Campus Park underneath the highway, which is something that I think we really need to get around to doing, because that was the whole point of raising that highway in the first place. The only thing that's holding me back from doing that, to be quite honest, is the fact that to do it in a way that's going to be super good for pedestrians, we kind of need to get rid of some buildings, and I don't love the idea of doing that. But I realize, and I've actually just realized this, there is a way I can do it where it's going to disrupt things a little bit, but it's still going to be quite good for people in this district. So what I'm going to do is select exclusively buildings up until about, well, I'm going to say right until about there. And I'm going to just hold left alt and move them along one, just by one, because then I get this bit of zoning right here. And I get this little space freed up. Now, yes, it looks a little weird just having a random gap between the buildings, but when you consider that it's going to be, you know, dedicated to a path, suddenly it kind of makes sense, I guess. And I think what we'll do is we'll just run this path back to about there for now. And then down at this end, we can sort of do the same thing. And I'm going to connect those together so you can see it directly underneath the highway, which is maybe a bit weird. I really want to bring one down here as well, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. Unless I turn it into a tunnel and bring it up here, which, I mean, I guess we can try and do that. So let's bring this guy, yeah, let's bring this guy along. Let's turn it into a tunnel right about there. Ooh, that might need to be a tunnel a little bit sooner, actually. All right, let's turn it into a tunnel here. So we're going to go make sure it's nice and ground level. We'll go 10 units and we'll go down until this turns into a tunnel, which is going to be right about there. It is going to be colliding. Oh, it's not colliding with anything. It actually does There's a pedestrian path here already. Interesting. Oh, do we want to play around with that? Do we? Oh, we could connect this to Lakeside and we can connect this to the parks. It's a big old pedestrian tunnel, but I think we're going to do that. I think that's pretty cool. I do think we want to maybe get rid of this right here, though. That little curve, and just do that slightly differently. So it's just going to go like this instead of being a curve. Because I kind of need this guy to go here and then up to ground level right about there. So that's... It's a little bit steep. It's a little steeper than I'd like it to be, but I think we can live with that. I think we can also just pull this right back to about there. And that seems pretty good. Yes, it's really steep, but that's going to give us a good connection. So let's go tidy up. Oh, man. Let's go tidy this up to begin with, because good Lord, that needs a little bit of love right there. So let's just bring this down to about, I want to say there. And that seems okay. It's annoyingly off-center, this path. I don't love that, but it's gonna have to do, I think, because I'm not gonna take the time to center it. It doesn't matter that much. We'll move this guy forward a little bit. We'll go ahead and move this guy forward as well. And now we just have to push it straight through. And I'm seeing a gap here. I'm wondering if I can get in there with the path. I really hope that I can. It'd be really, really cool if I could. So let's... Oh, I think I can. I absolutely think I can get through there. Okay, turn off angles and grid and road length. Turn off everything. Give me this path. Can I put this one in here? I mean, collisions are currently off. Ooh, I can do it with collisions on. That's actually good. That's perfect. Oh, that is perfect. And I'm just going to do this, I think, and then grab that segment, and we can just sort of tidy it up like that. There we go. Oh, that's very good. That is very good. So straight into Mulberry District. At this point, though, we're going to have to start getting rid of buildings on this side, which is a bit of a pickle, but we can tear those out. They weren't as intricately and carefully placed as the ones on the south side here, so what we can do is stick to the angle. Or maybe not. Maybe we just do... Well, actually, we have a little bit of a gap there. So let's do this. We'll go to here. And I suppose we can come over. We can go, I think, straight up. There is a pillar under there, but I don't think... I don't mind that sort of colliding like that. And that seems all right. I think what I'll do is just shuffle you a tiny little bit and bring you down to about there. And that's pretty good. So that's another connection. We have one up here. We have one here. We could try and get one further down. I'm not too sure how possible that's going to be, though. I guess we have got the park connection already. So let's not go too crazy. Let's just go and, I guess, you know, put some trees in that space just to make sure it's nicely covered. We can get a couple of trees in between the highway, I guess. Is that too much? Yeah. No, it's getting a little bit jungle-like in there. That's maybe a little bit too much. But this is kind of exciting, right? Oh, God, those were offices. Oh, no, they're not going to rebuild. Okay. Let's quickly rezone that. There we go. So that's good. That's going to give people a way to go from Lakeside to the Narrows. It's going to let them go from the Narrows to Campus Park and Mulberry District. That's a really good connection to have. It's also going to let them walk to the stadium from the northern part of town, which I'm really excited about. Now, I should probably mention Bedford's having some problems. There's not enough goods to sell, which is, I think, largely because of the fact that my industry is still falling apart. But there's actually not as many buildings complaining. It's still a lot, but it's not as many, which is good. And over here, we still only have the one financial building, but that's okay. One is more than we had at the start of the video, so this is progress. You know, the longer I look at this really long stretch of path, the less I like it. And that's annoying because it's really popular. There's a lot of people going back and forth here, and that is a good thing. But there's just something about it. There's something about it. It's a little too silly. I don't know. There's just something doesn't look right about this super long path. It seems unnecessary when we have a perfectly good sidewalk down here in the Narrows and up in Campus Park to have this pedestrian highway between the highway. I mean, that's what it is. It's essentially a pedestrian highway, and it's good. It's just, I don't know. There's something about it I just don't like. So I'm going to change it up ever so slightly. And what I think I'm going to do is basically we have the ability to, you know, go straight from here to here, which brings us out into Campus Park. So that's a connection from the Narrows to Campus Park that just exists. Now, obviously, we do have some connections here that we can certainly make, and so that's something I'm going to do. I'm going to take out this section of path, and instead, I'm going to go from here to, let's see if it connects. I think it will to there. So that gives us a straight shot across, which is good. So we have, you know, Lakeside and the Narrows still connected, and that's great. But I want to get rid of this bit because it just seems unnecessary. It seems like it would be, I don't want to say from a realistic point of view, but it just seems that realistically, it just doesn't seem like something that would happen, I guess, is sort of how I'm looking at it. It just, I don't know. I can't put into words. I know it's kind of my job to be like, hey, here's a bunch of words about this game that I'm playing. But no, I can't quite get the right words to describe what it is about this whole tunnel thing that I just don't like. I'm also going to keep these guys as actual paths because I do think they look really good. And to me, that just looks immediately better. It just, it frees up the space, and I'm sure we'll still have the same number of people moving around. I think they're just going to be moving on the sidewalk down here and in Campus Park, which to me is better. So when it comes to the stadium, there's a lot still to do. Obviously, you might notice I've done a little bit already. I've expanded the line of trees, I've filled in some space with some fences and some bushes and some color, but there is still more to do. There's still plenty of open space around here, and I'm going to be honest with you right off the bat, some of that's probably going to be filled with trees as well, especially down by some of these parking lots, because honestly, there's not a whole lot I could put in there, so it's probably going to be similar to all of this. But I'm kind of okay with that. I don't really mind too much if this space is similar to that. This triangle, though, I feel like it needs to be something better. I feel like it needs to be something interesting that's going to be good for anyone going to the stadium, but also for anyone that happens to live or work or shop in Bedford, and I guess the Narrows as well. So what I was thinking was that we could maybe just put the elevated plaza in here. Now, obviously, I don't mean right there, but I'm just placing it there so I can move it to shuffle it along. But I like that spot. I kind of like the elevated plaza being right there, or we, rotate it around and sort of squeeze it into this corner or something like that. But it's just different. It's just a different building. It's also new, and I really want to use it. So I like the idea of turning this entire sort of space into essentially like a giant plaza would be my thinking. So you've got this in this corner, and it really nicely accents that corner. I just want to point that out. It's a really, really cool looking plaza. But you would have that right there. And then what I could do is the same old trick we've done before, where we use the gravel paths to sort of lay out a space where people can walk around. So you can have someone that walks from, one side to the other there. We can have someone go from like there to there, for example. You can have someone sort of cut through right there as well. You can have someone kind of continue that way. You could have someone maybe walk all the way down to there. You can link just all of these different spaces together with all of these different paths. And if I paint over that, all of those gravel paths will disappear. Now, I don't know if anyone is actually going to use any of those gravel paths. I've had mixed results in connecting paths to pedestrian streets. So I just genuinely don't know if they're going to work. If they do, that's great. If they don't, then okay, well, whatever. Although I would like to connect this pedestrian street to this side, and I've just noticed a little space where I could probably do that, and in there as well. So let's just very quickly see if that's something we can do. If I take out those trees, I think I can probably get away with an actual park path here. So we'll go for right about there. That's actually pretty good, and it can just come straight over like that. So can I just grab you and do this? I don't know if anyone's actually going to use that. I don't know if they can use that. Oh no, they can. They absolutely can. There we go. So we have some people coming down at least, which is great news, and we have some people going up. So that's good. They absolutely can do that. So why are they not using my gravel path? Does it have to be... Oh, don't tell me it has to be an actual path, does it? Or maybe they just don't want to. That's another possibility, is they just kind of don't want to come down here. I guess we'll just leave it be for now. We'll stick with my gravel paths. Oh no, there we go. If someone jumped off the top plaza to come down here, that's fine. All right, they are using it. That's okay. So basically, my thinking is I just detail this with a bunch of stuff, right? So we could come in here, we can go to the pedestrian area plazas. We could do something like the small ice cream stand plaza, which again has to be placed roadside, but we could do something like this, and then I can just use move it as per usual to rotate it around, and then we just sort of shift it to say there. And honestly, I don't know that I love that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not 100% sold on this being here, but it's not the worst thing either. It sort of works. Although it's very colored. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Never mind. It doesn't work. What else can we do in here? I guess maybe I just build it from scratch. Maybe instead of using existing plazas, I just build this entire thing using props. That's going to be a lot of work, but I feel like it's also probably going to be worth it. And so now I think it's fair to say that we're done with the area surrounding the Nerdholm Chirpers Stadium. We're also done with Bedford, and we're also done with the Narrows. This has actually wound up being a really fun expansion for Nerdholm. I wasn't really expecting it to be, and it's not a huge expansion necessarily, but I think it fills in the space down here on this southern end of the city really nicely. The Narrows, admittedly, is a little bit dull looking, and I think from above it almost looks like an anomaly in a weird way. Over here in Lakeside, for example, it's very clearly just a suburb. The Narrows just looks like, well, it looks like I got lazy, which is kind of what happened, so these buildings might get swapped out for something else. But the good news is, the Narrows has given us 3,000 more people in Nerdholm, and Bedford has given us 1,800. So 4,800 more people than we had at the start. We're also making a little bit of money, which is fantastic, and I have gone in and adjusted the budget ever so slightly because we were running out of power, we were running out of sewage capacity, and garbage was starting to pile up. So the budgets on those have been brought back up ever so slightly. And even with that, we are still making a teeny tiny little bit of a profit. So we've kind of turned things around a little bit, which is fantastic news. We also have a really good number of people walking between the stadium and Bedford and the Narrows. So there's a lot of foot traffic in here, which is hopefully going to reduce the amount of vehicle traffic, which for the most part, I would say there's pretty low vehicle traffic in and around here. I'm not going to say for sure that there is, but it just thinking about it, it seems like there's fewer cars moving around. There's a lot of them parked, but there's definitely fewer moving around, which is exactly what we're looking for. Now, let's go check the financial district, and it actually has a few more buildings in here, which is absolutely amazing. Let's have a look at the industrial zone. It's having a rough time. It's still not doing very good over here, which is a bit of a problem, but Financial Heights is at least, it's growing. We got a couple of buildings in here, which is lovely. So these guys are, I guess, hopefully gonna do some good for us. I don't know. We do have to name Chestnut Mall though. So let's do that very quickly. So a commenter by the name of Barb left a comment on the last episode that said, "My son has a suggestion for your new financial district. Florence Heights doesn't seem like much of a good name, especially for a financial district." I agree with you. I mean, you could just name it Nerdwall Street to add on to the real life Wall Street in New York City. But what I really want for the suggestion is the Nerdholm Finance Quarter. And you know what? The Nerdholm Finance Quarter sounds fantastic. So here's what we're going to do. Chestnut Mall is going to become the Nerdholm. Let's see if I can. No, I can't. I was going to say, let's see if I can spell this in one go, but I immediately screwed it up. The Nerdholm Finance Quarter. I think I got that right. But I want to go one further because I thought I really do like Nerdwall Street. There's something about that that's kind of cool. So what I think we could do is we can go into options, we can go to gameplay, and we can say, where is it? Display road names. Now, obviously, we don't usually have this on, but if you think back, we did name this Emerald Boulevard. It is still called that, which is perfect. So how about we have Taylor Street, but I think Eliza Boulevard could just become Nerdwall Street. So we have that going the entire way along here, and that means it just ends here. That's, well, fair enough. I thought it was going to continue the entire way around, but apparently not. So yeah, Nerdwall Street is this main boulevard with the finance district, but it also has, all of this going on. Of course, Adams Street is the actual name, and, Taylor Street is this thing, whatever. It's Nerdwall Street, and it's the Nerdholm Finance Quarter. So Barb, thank you so much for the comment. I love how it sounds. The Nerdholm Finance Quarter is just a really, really cool name for this. And you know what? I'm going to look for one more comment to rename Financial Heights. So Nathalot left a comment that said, "I think the name for the financial district could be something like Riverbanks or Waterbanks. It would be funny because it's on the bank of a river and because it's a financial district." And you know what? Riverbanks is really cool. I like Riverbanks as a name for our actual little financial district down there. So Nathalot, thank you so much, and Barb, thank you again for the comments. We got some good names for some streets and for some districts and some, well, technically a pedestrian zone, but regardless, the Nerdholm Finance Quarter, Riverbanks, Nerdwall Street. Solid. And so it is that time once again when all that's really left to say is thank you so much for watching, everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. This episode, like I said, in a way doesn't feel like we did a lot, but every time I look over what we've built here, it just kind of works. Bedford is a bit messy, and I think letting it just build itself with some generic zone, not generic zoning, but wall-to-wall zoning, I think that was the right call. It gives it that sort of naturally built look. It wasn't just, a bunch of copied and pasted buildings the way the Narrows was, but the Narrows was copied and pasted by design. I think what I'd like to do with this series is try and strike a really good balance between doing the whole let's build something from scratch piece by piece thing like we did with, I guess, Lakeside and Park Retail Park and the retirement home and the Narrows as well, and I guess the stadium to a lesser extent. I want to do a lot of that, but I also do want to do more Bedford stuff because we do need the population to grow. We have a pretty big city here, but there's only 43,000 people in it. So I think we need to get that population up a little bit, and really the only way to do that in a way that makes sense is to just zone things and not worry too much about how it looks. With that said, Castleview, the district next to the Narrows in Bedford, is going to be something similar to Lakeside, except Castleview is going to be really rich. So we're going to be using mansions and stuff like that. It's going to be quite a low density district, but very, very wealthy with a lot of land value and parks and places to take your dog so it can poop away from your house, because you don't want it pooping on your petunias, right? You want a nice garden. You don't want dog, mess everywhere. Anyway, that's a bit of a oh man, that's a bit of a tangent. I think it's safe to say that we're done for today. So once again, thank you so much for watching, everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.